Summary of The E-Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber. Contrary to popular belief, my experience has shown me that the people who are exceptionally good in business aren't so because of what they know, but because of their insatiable need to know more. And so the great ones I have known seem to possess an intuitive understanding that the only way to reach something higher is to focus their attention on the multitude of seemingly insignificant, unimportant, and boring things that make up every business. What makes people work is an idea worth working for, along with a clear understanding of what needs to be done. If you are greedy, your employees will be greedy, giving you less and less of themselves and always asking for more. So if your business is to change, as it must continuously to thrive, you must change first. The E-myth is the myth of the entrepreneur. The technical work of a business and a business that does that technical work are two totally different things. The engineer goes into the semiconductor business. The musician opens up a music store. All of them believing that by understanding the technical work of the business, they are immediately and eminently qualified to run a business that does that kind of work. And it's simply not true. In fact, rather than being their greatest single asset, knowing the technical work of their business becomes their greatest single liability. Suddenly, the job he knew how to do so well becomes one job he knows how to do, plus a dozen others he doesn't know how to do at all. Because although the entrepreneurial seizure started the business, it's the technician who goes to work. And suddenly, an entrepreneurial dream turns into a technician's nightmare. The problem is that everybody who goes into business is actually three people in one: the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. It's not that we're indecisive or unreliable. It's that each and every one of us is a whole set of different personalities, each with his own interests and way of doing things. The entrepreneur is the visionary in us, the dreamer. The entrepreneur lives in the future, never in the past, rarely in the present. He's happiest when left free to construct images of what if and if when. The managerial personality is pragmatic. Without the manager, there would be no planning, no order, no predictability. Where the entrepreneur craves control, the manager craves order. The manager builds a house and then lives in it forever. The entrepreneur builds a house, and the instant it's done, begins planning the next one. It is the tension between the entrepreneur's vision and the manager's pragmatism that creates the synthesis from which all great works are born. The technician is the doer. If you want it done right, do it yourself, is the technician's credo. Things aren't supposed to be dreamt about, they're supposed to be done. If the entrepreneur lives in the future and the manager lives in the past, the technician lives in the present. To the manager, then, the technician becomes a problem to be managed. To the technician, the manager becomes a meddler to be avoided. To both of them, the entrepreneur is the one who got them into trouble in the first place. It is self-evident that business, like people, are supposed to grow, and with growth comes change. Unfortunately, most businesses are not run according to this principle. Instead, most businesses are operated according to what the owner wants, as opposed to what the business needs. Let's take a look at the three phases of a business's growth: infancy, adolescence, and maturity. If you want to work in a business, get a job in somebody else's business, but don't go to work in your own. Because while while you're answering the telephone, while you're baking pies, while you're cleaning the windows and the floors, while you're doing it, there's something much more important that isn't getting done. And it's the work you're not doing, the strategic work, the entrepreneurial work that will lead your business forward, that will give you the life you've not yet known. If your business depends on you, you don't own a business, you have a job. The purpose of going into business is to get free of a job so you can create jobs for other people. Adolescence begins at the point in the life of your business when you decide to get some help. There's no telling how soon this will happen, but it always happens precipitated by a crisis in the infancy stage. Drastic change creates an estrangement from the self and generates a need for a new birth of a new identity. And it perhaps depends on the way this need is satisfied, whether the process of change runs smoothly or is attended with convulsions and explosions. As a business grows, it invariably exceeds its owner's ability to control it, to touch, feel, and see the work that needs to be done, and to inspect its progress personally as every technician needs to do. Getting small again, one of the most consistent and predictable reactions of the technician turned business owner to adolescent chaos is the decision to get small again. If you can't control the chaos, get rid of it. They go back to being the owner, sole proprietor, chief cook, and bottle washer, doing everything that needs to be done, all alone, but comfortable with the feeling of regained control. You don't own a business, you own a job. You can't close it when you want to, because if it's closed, you don't get paid. You can't sell it when you want to, because who wants to buy a job? For when the dream is gone, the only thing left is work. The tyranny of the routine, the day-to-day grind of purposeless activity. Going for broke, the adolescent business has another alternative that is certainly less painful and decidedly more dramatic than getting small. It can just keep growing faster and faster until it self-destructs of its own momentum. Going for broke is the high-tech equivalent of Russian roulette, oftentimes played by people who don't even know the gun is loaded. Adolescent survival, the most tragic possibility of all for an adolescent business, is that it actually survives. And you know there's only one way to do it. You've got to be there, all the time. In adolescent survival, you're consumed by the business and the possibility of losing it. And so you put everything you have into it. It didn't need to happen. There is a better way. And most of us learn eventually, if for no other reason than because we realize that we can't be everywhere at once, to trust again. But trust can only take us so far. Because true trust comes from knowing, not from blind faith. And to know, one must understand. And to understand, one must have an intimate awareness of what conditions are truly present. How big can your business naturally become with the operative word being naturally? Because whatever size that is, any limitation you place on its growth is unnatural, shaped not by the market or by your lack of capital, even though that may play a part, but by your own personal limitations, your lack of skill, knowledge, and experience, and most of all, passion for growing a healthy, functionally dynamic, extraordinary business. In this regard, getting small is, rather than an intentional act, a reaction to the pain and fear induced by uncontrolled and uncontrollable growth, both of which could have been anticipated, provided the owner had been prepared to facilitate the growth in a balanced, healthy, proactive way. In short, Businesses that get small again die. They literally implode upon themselves. Simply put, your job is to prepare yourself and your business for growth. It's up to you to dictate your business's rate of growth as best you can by understanding the key processes that need to be performed, the key objectives that need to be achieved, the key position you are aiming your business to hold in the marketplace. If you don't articulate it, write it down clearly so that others can understand it, you don't own it. Because in the process of defining the future, the plan begins to shape itself to reality, both the reality of the world out there and the reality you are able to create in here. A mature company is started differently than all the rest. A mature company is founded on a broader perspective, an entrepreneurial perspective, a more intelligent point of view. About building a business that works not because of you, but without you. And because it starts that way, it is more likely to continue that way. And therein resides the true difference between an adolescent company where everything is left up to chance and a mature company where there is a vision against which the present is shaped. Therefore, maturity is not an inevitable result of the first two phases. It is not the end product of a serial process, beginning with infancy and moving through adolescence. No, companies like McDonald's, Federal Express, and Disney didn't end up as mature companies. They started out that way. It's his perspective that makes the difference, his entrepreneurial perspective. It tells us that the very best businesses are fashioned after a model of a business that works. It tells us that it is the entrepreneurial perspective that says it's not the commodity or the work itself that is important. What's important is the business, how it looks, how it acts, how it does what it is intended to do. The entrepreneurial perspective asks the question, how must the business work? The technician's perspective asks, what work has to be done? The entrepreneurial perspective starts with a picture of a well-defined future and then comes back to the present with the intention of changing it to match the vision. The entrepreneurial perspective adopts a wider, more expansive scale. It views the business as a network of seamlessly integrated components, each contributing to some larger pattern that comes together in such a way as to produce a specifically planned result, a systematic way of doing business. What exactly is the entrepreneurial model? It's a model of a business that fulfills the perceived needs of a specific segment of customers in an innovative way. When the entrepreneur creates the model, he surveys the world and asks, where is the opportunity? Having identified it, he then goes back to the drawing board and constructs a solution to the frustrations he finds among a certain group of customers. A solution in the form of a business that looks and acts in a very specific way, the way the customer needs it to look and act, not the entrepreneur. To the entrepreneur, the business is the product. To the technician, the product is what he delivers to the customer. To the technician, the customer is always a problem. To the entrepreneur, however, the customer is always an opportunity. Because the entrepreneur knows that within the customer is a continuing parade of changing wants begging to be satisfied. In short, for this business model of ours to work, it must be balanced and inclusive so that the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician all find their natural place within it, so that they all find the right work to do.